You're also my brother. Here's my shoulder. You can lean on. Hallelujah.
Take me to the King. I don't have much to bring. My heart is torn in pieces. It's my offering. Take me to the King. Truth is, I'm tired. Options are few. I'm trying.
morning, family. First, let me extend my condolences to everyone here today who is here to celebrate or to send Mrs. Jackson off to her final resting place. Um, as a courtesy to all the family, if you have an electronic device, can you please silence them at this time? Also, please remember that we are wearing the mask. It's a regulation enforced by us by the CDC. So everyone have to wear their mask properly, covering their nose and their mouth. Thank you. So at this time, we will have the musical selection, and then the minister will take over. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Greetings and thank you for being here today. We are here today to honor a very special person, Reverend Joyce Jackson, also known as Aunt Joyce. Maya Angelou once wrote and said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Aunt Joyce was one, one kind, God-fearing woman who always made you feel loved. She took every opportunity to make sure you felt valued and always to help and be a listening ear. Our family is reeling from her sudden and untimely death, but looking at each and every face here today, I can see how loved Aunt Joyce truly was and still is. Thank you for joining our family today to remember such a selfless and special, God fearing woman who always had a kind word and a smile on her face. Auntie, you will truly be missed. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Reverend. Right. Let us turn within and speak to the Father. There is but one presence and one power. It is God the good, omnipotent, everywhere present. It created each and every one of us for its own purpose, and it is here with us right now. So we give thanks for Joyce Jackson. We give thanks for all the joy and for all the love and for all the goodness that she has brought into our lives and to the lives of all those who touched her. We ask a special blessing for her family and friends. We ask that you keep them in your precious embrace, that you lead them, guide them, and direct them into right action. And we thank you that Joyce was a part of our own personal life. May Joyce always be a light shining before each and all of us who know her. And may we live to be as bright a light as she was. We thank God for all of his goodness and for all of his tender mercies. And we say amen, and so it is.
Good morning, everybody. As you've already heard, a theme today is that Aunt Joyce was a joyous person. And so for the spiritual reading today, I'm going to turn to the Bible in John 17, actually. And I'm reading from the New International Version. Can you hear me? Is it not? It's not on? Can folks hear me? Because I can speak loud. That's okay. Okay, I'll project. I'll use my teacher voice. But John says, at this, some of his disciples said to one another, "What does he mean by saying, 'In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me, and because I am going to the Father?'" They kept asking, "What does he mean by a little while? We don't understand what he's saying." And Jesus saw that they wanted to ask him about this, so he said to them, "Are you asking one another what I meant when I said, 'In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me'? Verily, truly, I say to you, You will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. So, with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. And I wanted to read that today because I just think that Aunt Joyce represents that. Is no one can ever take away the joy that she had and that she would bring to everybody that she touched. It was just pure, unadulterated goodness. You don't often see that in the world today, but every time you would interact with Aunt Joyce, it wasn't anything bad. It was always just lovely to see you and just sharing an outpouring of love. So I want to remind everybody that now is your time of grief, but you will see her again, and no one will ever take away her or your joy. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. This is the obituary for Joyce Jackson, Aunt Joyce, as we know her. Joyce Elise Jackson was born on March 31st, 1947, in Brooklyn, New York, to William and Beulah Jackson. Joyce received her master's degree in library science and put her degree to good use as the best children's library the Brooklyn Public Library has ever seen. She joined the First Center for Spiritual Living and was a long time and very much loved minister. She was the official travel planner for her beloved circle of friends. Whenever someone said, let's, she said, let's go. Aunt Joyce made a great travel companion. She was able to speak intelligently and with compassion to people from all walks of life. She told Rhonda stories about many of her amazing experiences in life. Joyce surrounded herself with positive people and stood up for female equality. During her lifelong career with the Brooklyn Public Library, she helped thousands of children be the best they could be, even if they didn't know it. All of her colleagues respected her, and she was truly boss lady. When she joined the First Center for Spiritual Living, she transformed into a better version of herself, if that's even possible, and eventually became a minister. She loved the teachings of Dr. Ernest Holmes and broadened her circle of friends through the church. Those friends were a source of encouragement and love during her final days. When the Spirit moved her, Aunt Joyce would dance like no one was watching. Joyce is survived by one sister, Cheryl Hinton. Her brother, Michael Jackson, preceded her in death. One brother-in-law, Ronald Hinton. One niece, Rhonda Hinton. One nephew, Leon Hinton. Two grandnephews, Keith Hinton and Keenan Thompson, and a host of cousins and beloved friends. So she's definitely someone that's going to be very much missed. And I'll take this opportunity to speak on how I felt about Aunt Joyce. I'm Leon Hinton, and experience is always the best teacher of anything. When I live in California now. We lived in Brownsville in Brooklyn, New York. It was pretty much fundamentally always happened. We go on field trips. And one of the most exciting field trips for me was to go to the Brooklyn Library because I had the inside track because my aunt worked there. My aunt was a librarian, which supersedes everybody. Teachers, presidents, smartest person in the world, plain and simple. The kids in my class would go, once we got to the library, they would look for her, and the question that they would ask is, are you really Leon Hinton's aunt? And emphatically, she said yes. I carried that through my whole life. So, Aunt Joyce, I'm gonna miss you.
taking a deep breath here for several reasons. So, good morning, everyone. I want to first thank Rhonda for giving me the honor of doing the eulogy for Reverend Joyce Jackson. I'm here to share with you, for us all to share, our gratitude for her life and to represent our church, First Center of Spiritual Living, with Dr. Greg Hart as the present pastor. To me, Joyce was a teacher who became a friend. She was someone that I loved, I respected for over 30 years. She was a light and a force. And she was the leader of our group, as Rhonda said, of ministers, practitioners, people who were trying to unfold and fold into a greater awareness of who we were. She was our leader in that. She loved God. She loved the science of mind. And she loved people. She felt that her mission in life was to serve God, to teach the science of mind, and to help people. And she did that until the day she died. Yes. So, dear friends and family, colleagues and students of Reverend Joyce Jackson, we can all recognize and say that in some way, great or small, for some length of time, whether it was long or short, that she brought something lasting into our lives, something of great understanding, awareness, and acceptance. She taught us to recognize who we are and to love ourselves and what we could do with our minds, with our hearts, with our intentions as children of God, or centers within spirit, as we say it at the center, but it's the same thing. There's one God, one life, one power, one principle, and it is perfect, whole, and complete in its knowing about itself and in its expressing of itself as everything that is, but most important, if we can say that, is expressing as each person. We're all some part of God. We're all some part of spirit. So we're here to celebrate the life of Reverend Joyce rather than to mourn her. To rejoice and celebrate the things that we had together, the times that we shared together. Her email handle was Rev Rejoice. It's so fitting, Rev Rejoice. We're also celebrating the life that perpetuates itself in all life. The life of God, knowing and loving itself, expressing its magnificence by means of its centers, by means of its children. Each one of us is a child of God. How magnificent that is, to know who you are, to know your worthiness, to know your power, to know your ability as a center within spirit as a child of the Most High, the one without a second, Spirit God. Reverend Joyce lives on in our memory and in the memories of all those who knew and loved her. And also the scores and scores of people that she helped as a practitioner and as a minister. She was my practitioner. Okay, sorry. It is said, when we come into this life, we are met by loving family and friends who care for us until we're able to care for ourselves. And judging the future by the past and going from the known to the unknown, we can believe, fully believe, that when we enter the larger life, there will be loving hands to greet us, loving family and friends to care for us until we become accustomed to our new surroundings and our new way of life. I can see little Ma Beulah with her arms outstretched saying, "Good job, baby. Welcome home." I believe that without a doubt, because she did a good job while she was here, and she's home. Death loses its sting. The grave loses its victory when we realize the eternality of our own being. Nature will not let us stay in one place too long. She allows us to stay just long enough to gather the experiences necessary to the unfolding and the advancement of our own souls. Then, what I call graduation happens. I'm glad you're smiling and laughing about that, because I think that that's what it is. We graduate from this experience into a larger experience. And we carry with us all that we have learned and experienced, along with an understanding of why what happened with us to the next experience. What is real about us, each one of us, is our spirit, our consciousness of being, not our bodies. We live through our bodies on this plane of action, but not really in them. We're living through them. We lived before we had these bodies, and we live after we have these bodies. Because God needs us to express through, right? The life we live is the life of God. And God cannot die. It is everlasting to everlasting, everywhere, evenly, equally present, all power, all love, all knowing. And we're a part of it. So we have to go to a greater and greater and greater experience of livingness. Now, we don't know what it is now, but if we know God, then we know that we have to go on to a greater experience of livingness. That's the promise. As spiritual beings, eternal and perfect in our spiritual nature, we move into a higher level of consciousness, just another way of livingness. All of us here have shared in the joy, the intelligence, the love, the clarity of mind that Reverend Joyce brought into this life with her and shared continuously to everybody that she could get their attention. She shared truth. She shared love and power and peace and our ability to, through our minds, through our words, with the understanding that we represent spirit while we're here, that we could live a life of peace and ease and balance and joy and just plain old happiness for no reason, but just for being. That was her teaching. That was her way in life. Sorry. Yes, we will truly miss her, but that missing has to be a sign of love, not a mask of tragedy. Yes, there is an empty place in our hearts. How could it be otherwise? But let that empty place be a shrine where you go to remember, to rejoice, and to be strengthened. Don't let it become a pit of despair, a place of sadness, because to do so would be to dishonor Joyce's memory and yourself, because that's not what she was about, right? Put a smile on your face for the blessing of the memory of her, the love that still is. God is love, love is God, love doesn't die either. That love is still there. Benjamin Franklin had something to say along these lines that I want to share. He said, we are spirits, that bodies should be lent us while they can afford us pleasure, assist us in acquiring knowledge, or in doing good to our fellow creatures is a kind of a benevolent act from God. When these bodies become unfit for these purposes, and they afford us pain instead of pleasure, instead of an aid, become an encumbrance, and answer none of the intentions for which they were given, it is equally kind and benevolent that a way is provided by which we can get rid of these bodies. And death is the way. We're coming and going all of the time. Our friend Joyce and we were invited aboard a big party of pleasure, which is to last forever. Reverend Joyce's chair was ready first, and she's gone before us. We could not conveniently all go at the same time. So why should you and I be grieved at this? We will follow and know where to find her when it is our time. So Rhonda, Family, your beloved is now fully alive, fully occupied in something new and something better and something more wonderful. She's doing her thing somewhere, what she does best somewhere. Dear Joyce has gone forth into that new expression of life. She has graduated, and I almost want to applaud. Yes, I almost want to applaud. But we know that in God she is now truly living and moving and having her being. We all are right here and now, because there's no place else for us to be. But she has left this body. We don't know what body she has or if she has one, but she knows because we're consciousness. So she is alive and aware and enthusiastic about the experience that she is having in her new life, right? So we thank God. I thank God, I know you do, for sharing this precious being with us. And we thank Reverend Joyce for the good news that she was always trying to impart to us, right? And so it is. Amen. Amen. And I thank you. Thank you. Have we started our sharing time yet?
Not yet. But
Okay.
you can share if you want. You can share, Judy. Reverend Judy, you can share.
Well,
Go ahead.
this is not my share.
Oh, that's
Okay,
okay.
but this is from not Reverend, but Vivienne Marie Mordo, who was very close to her. So she sent me this message and asked that I read it. It's lovely. She says, I met Joyce many years ago when we were both just starting out in our classes at First Church of Religious Science. We were both seeking a greater understanding of the truth. And in taking classes year after year, we became very good friends. And she was one of her closest friends to the end. Joyce always had a comforting word or an idea to uplift whoever came to her for support or guidance. She was kind and patient, loving and giving. Often we chatted for a long time, and it only felt like a few minutes. That's a real friend. I remember the magnificence of her presence and the joyful, childlike laughter. She made us all laugh. She was full of life, full of vigor, full of love. When she gave classes, we were all looking forward to attending, and we all felt inspired by her wisdom and her interpretation by her wisdom and her of the ideas we were continuously studying. She was a model of fairness and integrity. We always left from a class or from a phone call uplifted and inspired. I am truly grateful for Joyce's love and friendship for so many years. Everyone who knew Joyce will never forget how she made you feel. Joyce, you made everyone feel special, more than they believed about themselves. That's a gift. And she did that. She did that. She is a light in all our hearts. We will never forget her. Joyce, we love you as you move forward in life from love, life, love, and light to your greater unfoldment of good. We continue to celebrate your life and the memories we hold in our hearts. Thank you for the light you brought to this world. And that's from Vivi Mordo, religious science practitioners. But isn't that something how that's what we all feel in our hearts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So it is.
Good morning, everybody. So, I really want to speak about my Aunt Joyce from a very personal perspective. Um, you know, she has touched so many lives, and I have seen this day after day, year after year, but no one's life has she probably touched as much as she did mine. She was always willing to do things I wanted to do. She was always willing to go places I wanted to go. And she was so versatile that I would take her with me to my work events, my personal events, and she was able to mingle and blend and speak with anybody on any level. As my brother says, she was like the most intelligent person in the world. That's how we saw her, right? The fact that she was a librarian, that helped for sure. But she spoke about the children's books that she would read to other children. We spoke about the family events that we go about. And unfortunately, I don't know anyone who has passed on and has come back to tell me what happens. But during these final days with Aunt Joyce, she spoke so much to me about her experiences in life with many of you. So many of you, whether I know your faces or not, I know your names and know them well because she definitely embraced you in her life completely. I used to tease her. I call her Helpful Hannah because no matter what we are doing, she has to help somebody. Like we are walking down the street, somebody drops a piece of paper. Oh, let me get that for you. Oh, let me get this door for you. Oh, let me do that for you. She's always wanting to do for others. And I hope I got that trait from her as well as from my mom. And hi, Mom, I know you're listening. So Aunt Joyce was just an overall good person. And we spoke about human beings. She is a good human being. And we need so many more of those in this world right about now. She embraced everything that was good. And even to the point during her treatments, she would tell the doctor, I don't want to hear any bad news. Do not tell me bad news. And she was not about anything bad. She was always about good, the goodness for herself, goodness for others more so importantly. Joyce and I, she came to my house for Thanksgiving, a year ago it was. Little did I know it was going to be the last time that she was there. But she was there. She interacted with my partner. They would talk about so many different topics. Again, she was so very versatile, but so very loving. The rest of us, the family, we're spread out geographically, but with Aunt Joyce, no matter where she was, as Keenan said, she had a kind word for everybody, every single human being. And that's an important quality that, as Reverend Judy said, she will be continuing on, whether it's in a different body, we don't know, but she will continue. I do believe Aunt Joyce will be eternal, not just in my heart, but in your hearts as well. We believe everybody whose life she touched will certainly be impacted. We feel the loss. She and I, Aunt Joyce was not the best housekeeper, okay? We know that. But we spoke about, you know what? She said, I don't even know why I keep all these things, Rhonda, because when it is time for me to leave this world, you're just going to throw everything away anyway. She hated the fact that I threw everything away. I would just come in and I'm just going to throw stuff away. Because you don't use it. You don't use it. But you know what? It was okay. She's like, I understand. I completely understand. And when I got the phone call from the doctor's office, and I was on a business trip in Miami, and they called and said, you need to come to New York immediately. And I was like, what do you mean by immediately? Do you mean tomorrow morning? What exactly did you mean by that? They said, nope, you need to come right now. So I did. I dropped what I was doing and I came, and I kept a vigil at her bedside right through the end. I'd never been that close to really someone passing just literally in front of me, but she, she kept up her spirits. You need to know she did keep up her spirits right to the very end. We were laughing and joking as much as we could. As you know, also, she was in a lot of pain for sure, and we tried everything to try to ease some of that pain. And I mean, we went to almost the actual, we won't use these words, but to the ones that are illegal, but we didn't, okay? We didn't do that. But we did go to marijuana. I mean, she went to other types of things because she was in just so much pain at the end, and yet this was in a time when she was also expressing to me her love for life, her love for her friends, and she was so grateful for each and every one of you. You have to know that she really loved all of you. And fortunately, she had this book, and she called it The Pages, and really what they were photocopies from her diary by an alphabetical order, and she had everyone's names and everyone's number. I was able to reach all of you, and I am so grateful for that. I always tease her, why don't you come into the 21st century and put some of these things on the iPads, put this on the phone? Nope, nope, nope. I am using my papers, and thank goodness she did, because I would not have been able to get into her other stuff and find your information to contact you. So I really do appreciate you being here today. We spoke about, Joyce and I spoke of, you need to do something today that your future self will be proud of. And that really resonated with me, because I think, I am older now, definitely, and I think about things I could have done maybe differently when I was younger. She even spoke about those things to me as well. It's like, I could have done this, I could have done that. But she felt that her experiences that she had were right for her at that time, and that moved her on to whatever the level she needed to be at. And she loved being a minister. Those who work with her, she loved that, because she loved giving to people. So I want all of us to take that away from here, that we continue loving her by loving one another, by being kind to one another. You understand? Okay. She, on Joyce she was just on Joyce. I don't know what else to say. She was just so full of love and expectation. I see it triple time in her, and a person who believed in service. That's another important thing to me, is that she believed in service, and she served anyone and everyone that she possibly could. Even those that didn't even appreciate it, right? She actually continued to serve those as well. So, God bless her for that. And just in closing, I want to thank all of you for the support that you have given me through this time as well. It means so much to me, as I felt like I was part of her friend circle with all of you, and some of you, we've taken vacations together, we've done things together, and that's what really builds relationships. Your family is not necessarily the blood you were born with, it's those around you that love and care for one another, and that's what we have in all of you. So I really appreciate that. And on that note, this is what I would like for you to remember Aunt Joyce as, please. Okay. So excuse any technical difficulties that we may be having at the moment, but we will watch the video.
I'm going to get back to the audio now.
Okay, all right. And this was actually the last kind of girls trip that we took together. that's what I want you to remember my aunt as, right? As a loving, caring, and dancing like no one's looking kind of a woman. Thank you.
And singing.
And singing, that's
She's
right.
always singing.
It's a happy day. So now we'd like to have any folks who have some reflections or remembrances on Joyce. Be happy to come up here. I will try to help you out if you want to.
My name is Carol Charles. It says here that we should speak for 2 minutes. How can I condense 40 years of friendship with the Reverend Joyce Jackson, her brother, Michael Anthony Jackson, and her mother, Mrs. Beulah Jackson, into these 2 minutes? I came to the First Church of Religious Science in about 1974. I met Joyce around 1979, 1980, and we became friends from that time until now. We did so many things together, it would take too long to describe all the events that we attended, all the luncheons that we went to, and the brunches after services at the First Church of Religious Science. Joyce Jackson loved the dance, the theater. She introduced me to Phil Danko, that wonderful group from Philadelphia. I'm an artist, a visual artist, so I took Joyce to the museums. And she said, what an experience. I must have explained every detail in the various paintings. So I remember Joyce as a brilliant, brilliant woman, as a good, honest person. And I remember her mother and her brother. We actually have done so many things together. We visited each other's homes. We were there for each other for the good times, for the occasions like today. And we just spent so many years of knowing each other, of being together, and sharing ideas, and we shared ideas that we learned from the teachings of religious science. I will always remember her. It just would take too long to go into every single detail. But I know if there is a heaven, that's where Joyce is. And so it is. Thank you.
Hi. My husband Jerry's here in case I start crying too much. We know Reverend Joyce about 40 years. She was my practitioner for so many years. And then we became friends. And there's two things I want to say. Many years ago, when I didn't have anything square-rooted, I loved science of mind, I loved unity, but I didn't know what planet I was on. And she was working with me one day, and I said, you know, Reverend Joyce, I said, I always had a fear that if I got everything in order, that's where my head was at, got everything square-rooted in my life, and everything was fine, I would die. I always felt that way. And she said, know that you go and enjoy your life more. Then you'll be happy. And I never forgot it. She changed my life. And the other story I want to tell is during COVID. Of course, we kept in touch. And Jerry and I and Reverend Joyce, she always said I could call her Joyce, and I said, no way. You're Reverend Joyce forever. She would listen to the service at 11 at the church on the computer, and then on the Zoom, and then we would call each other, and we would take turns every week. One of us would do the opening treatment, one would give the lecture, and then we would have a discussion, and then the third person would give the closing treatment and prayer, and we rotated it every week, and we all loved it. We all loved it. She was very humble. It's like she knew she was a child of God, and she knew she had that in her. But she was a very humble person. And she took classes I gave, she took classes Jerry gave, and that crazy handwriting she had. And she would take notes furiously. And she changed my life so much. She'll always be with me. And today is my husband's birthday, and he said he's so glad to be spending it here. And she'd get a chuckle out of that. Thank you.
One of the things about Reverend Joyce that I'm sure you knew, but I also gave classes at Queensborough for history, and she would always come to them. But she loved history. She really loved history, and we would have discussions. And one thing that was great about her, she never was judgmental. Both sides, if I gave one side, she would give another side. We'd discuss it, and she was in the class with all these people and gave, listened to both sides. And that's another part of her that I think that, we have to remember how fair she was. She would listen to everybody. She had opinions, some of them strong, but she always saw that the other side also had a right to their opinions and strong. And I always, in my classes, I thought that was one of the great traits of anybody, is being fair. And I wanted to leave you on that her fairness is always there. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just really filled with so much emotion about Aunt Joyce. Because everything everyone said today is truly Aunt Joyce. But I just want to say at one time, I too share the same feeling that Leon had about the library. Because she was just awesome. I remember one of my summer jobs, she worked at Clinton Hill Library. And I walked in the door. As soon as I walked in the door, Mr. Dudley and Miss Lightner knew exactly who I was. They was, that's Joyce Jackson's niece, that's her niece, that's her. I just felt so touched, because it's like what Leon said, the most smartest person in the world, true lady boss. It was like, Joyce Jackson, And then another thing, I shared with her every time I would speak to her. It was always in the morning time, like before I'm going to work. But no matter what she say, it's in true form. It's like she feel it. And when she's talking, it's like she's teaching. It's like you can see what she's saying. And we also share the love, me, her, and Aunt Beulah, her mother, for the love. That's what I liked about that tape, Rhonda, that you showed, the Love of Dance, because we saw Alvin Ailey a number of times. It was just so much the feeling and the sharing of it all. And that's about it. But I just want to also say just thank you again. And thank you, Lord, for the life of Reverend Joyce Jackson, a.k.a. Aunt Joyce.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Well, I can go back with Joyce, other than my sister here, further than anyone, because Joyce and I were cousins, and we grew up together. And like my niece Gwendolyn just said, she was the smartest, most loving, most caring person that I know. Really, truly. We were very close. She was obedient. We went to school together. And she was, like you said, Leon, she was the smartest person in the school. And I'm going to tell you because when we were in the third grade and we were in classes together, and Joyce was younger than me. And so she was already ahead, you know, because we were in the same class. And then they said that they were going to skip in the whole third grade class. They were going to skip 2 people, right? And so we all had to take a test. Well, I don't have to tell you who was the number 1 person by a large margin. And she got skipped. I felt like I was number 2, but the PTA president, her son, they made him number 2. So Joyce and I always, they cheated you, Sophie, you know. But so she went on to not the 4th grade, but the 5th grade and whatever. And to tell you how smart, and she was truly smart, she graduated high school, I think around 16 years old, no older than 16, and probably when most people are starting college at 18 and 19, Joyce was already graduating from college. So she was smart. We grew up. She was the only one who I had. We played games together, like we used to play hangman. We used to play a game called Spud, where you had to remember words or, you know, I don't even remember it so much, but I know she and I played it. And like I said before, she was obedient because when our parents, Aunt Beulah and my mother, maybe they would go out or whatever. And I remember one time when a friend of mine, the young lady next door to me, was going to have a birthday party. And so Joyce and I were very anxious about going to this birthday party. We were about 16 years old then, you know. But our parents went in to the birthday party like maybe about an hour before it was to start. And they didn't like what they saw. It was too dark in there. And to show you how obedient we were, they said, you cannot go. All of our friends were going, but we could not go. And Joyce and I sat across the street on the stoop that evening. Our parents went out, right? And we sat on the stoop and we watched everyone come and go, but we did not dare. We did not dare go across that street. That's really how we were. But Joyce, even coming up, there was, you know, we had good times. Like I said, we were best friends, Joyce and I. Not just cousins, but best friends. But even at an early age, like 15 or 16, Joyce was going to church already. We all went to church, but she was really, really into it. So I say that because she truly loved God, even as a teenager, and others were maybe wanting to have a good time, she was going to church, you know. So she was smart, she was talented, loving, and always something, you know, comforted to say. And she was truly blessed because she stuck by her mom, Aunt Beulah, all her life, you know, right to the day Aunt Beulah went on home. And Joyce, my son, Jason, who should have said the prayer, he couldn't be here because his father just went into the hospital. And but Joyce and her brother, cousin Michael, were my son's godparents, and she was so honored to be their godparents. And he spent many, many days and nights over there at their home, and they taught him so much. And Joyce, she was just absolutely the best. Her, you know, her brother, cousin Michael also. So I just thank God that she was in my life. I visited her I went to visit her this well, no, I think it was in August or September. And I didn't really know she was home because there were papers in the door. But so I was picking up the papers and I was about to leave, and she opened the door and we talked. But so that was the last time that I really saw Aunt Joyce, cousin Joyce. I'm so used to all of saying Aunt Joyce, but that was my cousin. And again, like I said, we grew up very closely together. She loved us. She loved all of us. She loved all of you. When she got ordained, I was there. You know, we were there, the family. And I didn't want to take up so much time, but I could go on and talk about my cousin Joyce. But I thank God that, you know, she was in my life. And like they say, she's with the Lord now. They say to be absent from the body, to be present with the Lord. And if there's anybody who's present with the Lord, it's Joyce. Thank you, Lord. I love you, Joyce.
Thank you, Holy Spirit, for allowing me to be here today. I want to say, I'm Deborah Starr Reed. I was a practitioner at the First Church of Religious Science with Joyce and studied with her and learned from her and was inspired by her. She brought so much unconditional love to us all. When I first came to the First Church at Alice Tully Hall, I was working in a construction site. And I'd come in there in dungarees and all rusty, and she would smile. And she would say, "You look good, girl." And I would be explaining how I was sorry I was dressed this way, but I didn't want to miss the class. Or I didn't want to miss the service. Or I wanted to hear her speak. And I got so much encouragement, and she was such an example for me, that I began to study, and I became a licensed professional practitioner. And then we were able to really talk. Principles. We were both big on principle. And whenever I would shy away, she would remind me and bring me back. And so we all spoke about how wonderful an individual, what a beautiful person that she was. And so I won't go on and talk about all the great times, but she was the organizer, and she organized a group that came to my home and blessed my home in the Rockaways, and I will never forget it. And Spirit is just telling me to tribute her a little bit. I haven't prepared anything, but a song came to mind when I was sitting there, and people were describing her beauty. And I just want to sing a little bit of it, a cappella, so bear with me. Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be close to you. Why do stars fall down from the sky every time you walk by? Oh, just like me, Well, they long to be close to you. On the day that you were born, the angels, they got together and they decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkle moon dust in your hair. Oh, I see rainbows when I looked at you. That is why all the truth seekers in town, they followed you all around. Oh, because just like me, well, they long to be close to you. Life is eternal. Live on, Reverend Joyce.
Thank you. I made it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reverend Fran Bailey. Joyce was my practitioner. I was her practitioner. But most importantly, we were road dogs. We traveled I-95, I-85, 495, 295, 395, wherever the road took us, we went. And they were trips of minimum 8 to 20 hours. So we talked a lot. We had a lot of things to share. And these were the gifts that was given to me. Because as the lady, the practitioner said beforehand, you talked a lot of principle and truth with Joyce. And you had a lot of aha moments with Joyce. And she would give you a couple of aha, wow, that's really great. That's what made me really feel good about Joyce, because she made you feel good. But I'm here to share two things with you. One, she was a lover of this teaching, the science of mind, and she loved the teachings of Ernest Holmes. And one quote from Ernest Holmes I will share with you that resonated with her quite a bit, and we had a lot of discussion about it. And it goes like this. I live in the quiet, joyous expectation of good. Dr. Ernest Holmes. I live in the quiet, joyous expectation of good. Oh, I'm glad I remembered that. Because it meant so. This is what she was about. Every present moment of her thinking was about the good of life. So when Rhonda called me and told me, well, a girl's in her final days, or she's in her final moments, she may not last too long, I went back to those conversations that I had with Joyce, and I said, well, what is it that's important to Joyce? And what's important to Joyce is what she's knowing at any particular time. And one of the essential things that I knew she knew at any given time in her life, and maybe at the point where she made her transition over into her next experience, was simply this: where God is, I am. And that was the thought that kept me going, because she is continuing on. She's moving on. I said, Joyce, when the time comes, do you want to come back as a so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? She said, no. I want to move on to nirvana. I want to be with God. I want to stay with God. I want to be part of God in principle, in consciousness. I said, wow. Okay, well, that's what I believe she knew. Where God is, I am. And so it is.
Hello. I'm Tarji Thornton. I'm Barbara Watts' daughter. And I just wanted to say something. I have two very fond memories of Joyce. One was how devoted she was to Miss Jackson, her mom. And she and I had that in common because she took such very good care of her mom. And my last memory of her and her mom was when they came to our home for Thanksgiving, right before her mom passed. And when I was a young girl, she and my mom were friends for a very long time. I remember I was a teenager and I was in high school, and I was pretty, in high school, and so I was teetering upon graduation, and I needed this one class, and the lady gave me an essay on a book called Equus. I'll never forget it. And my mom and Joyce watched the video. We went to Joyce's home in Rochdale, and they watched the video. And Joyce had brought home the book, and they had newspaper articles, and they had it all laid out, and I was sitting in the corner twiddling my thumbs. I didn't have a phone back then. There were no cell phones back then. But I was sitting in the corner with my attitude, twiddling my thumbs while they laid out my essay on that book, Equus. I'll never forget. Needless to say, I got an A. But that was one of my very fond memories of many of Miss Joyce. She would be truly missed, and I know my mom wished she could be here today. She's in Alabama caring for her brother, and I just really want to say she would truly be missed, and I loved her as well as my mom. Thanks.
We are getting to wrap it up.
But we have one last.
But we have one last.
Absolutely.
I just want to say that Reverend Joyce, she fits all the adjectives: loving, caring, sharing, nurturing, taking care of, giving, supporting, all the adjectives you could think of. Somebody has a story to say how she fits it. For me, Joyce was like more than family, because she took care of so much things that I had to do. You know, when you're in the teaching, we do a lot of traveling. The new people are, I don't know if they're luckier, but it's not, learning the science of mind is not the same. We had to travel. We've been all over this country going to classes. And I'll be at home, the phone ring. Veronica, this is Joyce. I said, hello, Reverend Jackson. She said, you know, that meeting in Florida, in New Orleans, in New Jersey, in Colorado. Are you going? I said, yes. Say, all right, we talk, and She said, bye. Next thing you know, Reverend Jackson, she makes the booking. She book us in the meeting. She book us on the airplane. She book us in the hotel. She said, I think we should go a day earlier so that everything is just nice and quiet and simple. Not only that, but then the phone rings again. You say, you know, you love my mother so much and she feels the same way about you. Why don't you come over and spend the evening with us the day before we travel? This way you're coming all the way from Westchester. You won't have the hassle with the luggage and all of that. I say, wow, you know, she just have these ideas to make everything easier for you. Then at nights in the hotel, we would talk about the science of mind. And if you would say something a little different than she heard it before, you know, the humility comes in. She said, I like that. Say that again. Say it slowly so I can so I can get it. You know, and she has a sense of humor. You know, it's she's such a person that you want to always be with her. And the dancing. Or when she feel like dancing, she get out there and she caught up. We were in, I think, in Egypt. And so we were like, get out on the dance. And so I looked over there, saw the pastor and some other people. I said, not me. Reverend Jackson, get out there. she didn't care who saw her. She is just herself. Wherever she is who she is. And I just love her for that.
Good afternoon, everyone. In closing, I'm one of the great-grandnephews. And in closing, I wanted to read some kind words that her sister, my grandmother, wrote. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here with us today, but she had this to say. Although my sister had no biological children of her own, she excelled and enjoyed being a nurturer. She lovingly called children little people in whom she found so much delight. Her profession as a librarian fit her so well because it allowed her to give loving attention to the children of the community, coupled with gently imparting life lessons to them. Within the family, she was the repository of family history. I know she had a card file hidden away somewhere with dates, places, names, and events, maybe the pages, something like that, you know? For the younger generation, she was the link to their past. She never tired of recounting family stories. Her nurturing was not limited to generations after her, but she cared so outstandingly for our mother, and she spoke so affectionately of her friends who were her senior. It was impossible for her to do all of that her heart wanted to do for those she cared about. However, she did and gave the best she possibly could. I will miss that link to our grandmother so lovingly nicknamed Joyce. Signed, Cheryl, my grandmother. So I know we've got to wrap this up, but I wanted to take a second myself to, listening to what everyone had to say today. It's amazing how my experiences with her as Aunt Joyce, right? I didn't know Reverend Joyce. I didn't know anything about Reverend Jackson, to be perfectly honest. But I knew Aunt Joyce. And literally everything that I was going to say has been said already, and it's been said multiple times, and I thought there was a script that someone, that had been handed out because it's really amazing. But the fact is, this is the cycle of life. And, when I got the call from my mother, that it happened, we knew it was coming, but it doesn't hit you until you get that word. And immediately I thought about everything that I loved about Aunt Joyce. Um, and it just amazed me how in the 45 going on 46 years now that I've been on this earth, I can't recall a single day when I was with her that she didn't have a smile on her face. And I truly mean, I don't, she was always in a good mood, you know, and she always made you feel better. She really did. You came away after any conversation with her, you just felt good, you know. And, you know, like it's been said multiple times, she could talk about anything. It was really amazing. So that's what I wanted to leave you with, and I want to thank everyone that came out today to take time out of your busy schedules to come in the weather. But I know for someone like Joyce Jackson, it's not hard. You know, there's no choice there. It's very easy. And even though she's no longer with us here in the physical, she will be with us in spirit, and she's going to live on in all of us. Thank you.
We have a song, yes.
Well, as he cues it up, we all just thank you for coming today, as my brother said, really just sharing in the joy of Aunt Joyce's life. We appreciate you. We will miss you forever, Aunt Joyce. Want to note that there is a repast filled with good food, some of her favorites, so please join us at the King of Queens on 12811 Merrick Boulevard in Jamaica, New York, and it's in your program at the bottom, so please come join us if you have an opportunity to celebrate her life yet again with good food, because you know she liked to eat as well. So thank you all for coming, and we appreciate your time and energy. And this was one of her favorite songs. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
You were content to let me shine.
thanks again, everybody, and again, join us at the repast. Thank you again for coming, and we'll miss you, Aunt Joyce.
Family, friends, well-wishers, we are at the conclusion of this service, and thank you for allowing us to care for your loved one and allowing us to be of service. Thank you. Safe travels.